right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 76 of the Hideout, where we are going to be talking about Web3 gaming and the Metaverse with another awesome panel. We are right off the tail end of Consensus 2024, and that was a lot of fun. I know we got to test out one of our guests' games over there, Cornucopia, so we'll definitely excited to dive in with you guys and see everything you're building and learn more. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and the Legions 2029 game. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but Legions 2029 is a hack and slash hybrid with a roguelike gameplay loop. It's fully blockchain enabled and it's free to play. It's a PC game that we've been building for the last 2.5, 3 years actually in Unreal Engine 5. The best thing you can do is check out the pinned tweet at the top of the Spaces, which has more information and some videos on our latest season, but definitely recommend you guys jumping in there and trying it out. Like I said, it's free to play. It's a PC game. You just download the game following the download instructions or on the Hyperplay launcher. And you can check out an awesome game that we're really proud of and excited to be continuing to build with our community. So what we're going to do here is we are going to do some quick introductions. If you guys could just tell us what you're building, who you are, kind of what brought you into the space. A couple housekeeping items. You'll see that I've pinned some information to the top of the space. One of those posts are our trailer and some information about the game. On that front, I would definitely encourage the speakers, if you have anything visual, we love to have it up there. So we definitely want people seeing it. Feel free to post stuff to the top of the Spaces. But before we do that, you'll see that we've got our tweet for the Spaces out from the Hideout account. This is a new account that we just established. We've been doing this now for a year and a half, but a few weeks ago, we established a Hideout account to try to drive some additional content and create some really cool stuff. So we would really appreciate it if you could go and retweet that tweet. I keep saying tweet, it's like we're living in the past now, but go and repost that post and try to what you can do is if you repost that, we're going to have a contest at the end of the Spaces. And so anyone who reposts that and is here towards the end of the Spaces, we're going to be giving away some Satoshi's crystals, which are our key resource in our Legions 2029 game. So get ready for that. That's going to be, we really appreciate if you could do that. Apart from that, I want to jump over to our speakers. And why don't we start with Sharky? Welcome to the Spaces.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting us up. This is Nepa under the account of Sharky, Community Lead. I've been Community Lead at Sharky for over 2 years now. And if you don't know what we are, what we do, we're Solana's largest NFT lending protocol with over 1,200,000 total loans taken, over 10 million Solana in total loan volume. I think people really appreciate the simplicity behind the product of borrowing and lending against their NFTs. So that's our main product. We do have plans of researching into other blockchains we want to expand into, like Bitcoin ordinals and EVM. But yeah, that's just what personally got me into the space is really just learning about how money really works. How the US dollar works is really scary. So when I realized how Bitcoin and blockchain technology works, I definitely got bullish. That's the simple answer for me, and I appreciate you guys for inviting us up.
I love it. Well, yeah, lending against NFTs is certainly a really interesting use case to kind of add liquidity and it's been something that was tried and tested on Ethereum and then on Polygon, and so it's really awesome to see now with this movement around Solana NFTs that you guys are bringing that to Solana and have been doing that and really unlocking a lot more potential for your users. Really, really excited to have you here. And now let's jump over. And I guess what we could do is Rob and or Josh, feel free to both introduce yourselves, the project. Great to have you here. I did get a chance to play the game at Consensus, so it was awesome. Really excited for what you guys are building, and really happy to have you on the space. Either one of you, go ahead.
Sure, quick. I'll start us off. I'm Josh, co-CEO of Cornucopias, and actually, thanks for having us on the show. And I'm glad you got to play the game and enjoy it. There's so much more that you didn't get to see, but that was a good example of the quality of gameplay and graphics that we aspire to and that we will do with the remainder of the game release. But Cornucopias, for those of you that aren't aware of who we are and what we're doing, we're a Web3 based MMO game. And it's kind of like a life simulator where the lore is that humanity has ascended from the earth as a result of a great calamity and into the clouds, into these dome-like structures in the clouds. And each of these domes are incredibly large. For example, the one you played was 8 kilometers in diameter, and the next 3 that are coming out are about the same size. So you have a full huge opportunity for gameplay in each of these different domes, which gives you a variety. As a player, you can go and explore, and you can participate in crafting and farming, fishing, exploration, combat, even racing, which is what you tried at the Consensus booth. So it gives the player an opportunity to participate in the in-game economy, as well as just almost choosing their own adventure within the world of Cornucopias.
Amazing. And, I really like how you guys are kind of bringing in these curated, gamified experiences within, a more broad metaverse platform with land ownership. I actually personally came in, end of 2017, because I was really excited about what Decentraland was building. And at that time, they were kind of the only show in town when it came to decentralized metaverses and with user and UGC type of model with land ownership. And I remember, I was working as a lawyer at the time, and the idea of land ownership is what kind of crystallized, the concept of NFTs for me, and said, okay, that this is interesting, right? That people may want these spaces. They're digital, they're limited, they're scarce. Why? There's a use case here that's pretty apparent. And, over time, I think we've seen a lot of challenges with the model, and I think we've seen a lot of iteration. So it's really great to see kind of this second pass at metaverses that have learned from, the early ones and are now really building very, very content rich, experiences that incorporate NFTs rather than, leaning on them as like the primary functionality. I think that was kind of my big takeaway from seeing the game, is that while blockchain is incorporated, it's not the driver, right? It's not the only thing that's happening there. And, I think that's commendable. I think we're going to land in a world where we do have these hybrid approaches really shining through. So, all right. Rob, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Rob Gregg. I'm the other co-CEO along with Josh. I think exactly what you said there. We studied for a good 6 months before we even started the project what currently exists within Web3 and what exists within Web2. We wanted that perfect blend, and it was really important to us that our game is going to be free to play, so you don't need an NFT. However, NFT can play a really important part of ownership and personal ownership of land and vehicles. So and the blockchain itself also has to be completely invisible to give the player the best experience. However, when we're onboarding players from Web2 to Web3, at some point ownership will become important to them. So we get this opportunity to gently introduce them and educate them to the power of, actually you do own this NFT. You won't get banned if you sell it. You can sell the various aspects, or you can go and look on the secondary. So that is all part of the user's journey. And yeah, like I said, we studied all these. So we're really keen on learning from the mistakes that other projects have made in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the right mindset. We talk a lot with founders on here about the challenges with blockchain and UI and onboarding difficulties. And I think that the consensus is that we have to make a lot of this stuff invisible and back end it and just give users a familiar experience. But I think sometimes what gets lost in that is the value that blockchain actually does bring in terms of ownership. And so I think you put it perfectly. We have to back end a lot of the functionality. We have to make the on-ramping smooth, but we do have to educate and really, help users understand the utility that this technology brings in terms of peer-to-peer transactions and everything that surrounds that, right? And I think that we'll eventually get to a world where the tech stacks are so good that we get past some of these issues. And I think that's when we talk about mass adoption in gaming and the metaverse. I think that's what it's going to be is people, they'll get used to the rights just like we get used to the rights with everything else, but it'll just become integrated into every digital experience that we do. And it won't be NFTs or blockchain. It'll just be, I own this, right? And I think that'll be the important thing. But I think we still have a lot of work to do to get there. So really excited to have you guys on. I know we're going to dive into some of these topics a little bit deeper. Let's jump over to Spencer on the Hideout account to clean up anything I missed, give an introduction, and take us into the spaces.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Spencer Vogel. I'm the business development manager with Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment, and I'm on the Hideout account today. Just as a reminder, this is a new account, so would really appreciate if you guys could all give it a follow. We're putting out some new content around the Hideout that we're really excited about and really focusing on this account for that. So would really, really appreciate a follow. Getting into the format a little bit for today. So we're going to start out with a group question. I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump into the discussion from there. Then we'll get into some individual questions. And then if we have time at the end, we'll do some more group discussion questions. And then as a reminder, again, we're also doing a giveaway, and we're giving away 5 Satoshi's crystals, which is our main in-game resource. So the way that you're going to be able to enter that is by retweeting the post that we pinned to the top of the space that says "We're live" at the top of the post. If you hit a retweet on that, and then you stick around until the end of the space when we announce the winner, that's basically how you enter to win. So definitely make sure you do that. And I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. So I think we could just jump right into it. Josh, why don't you start us off on this one if you don't mind? So what do you think are some of the key advantages and disadvantages of integrating Web3 technology into gaming economies?
Sure. It's a great question, and one that any of us in the Web3 gaming space is very passionate about. I'll start with just the fact that your game assets can become owned by the players and traded and bought and sold in a decentralized liquid marketplace. That's incredibly powerful, an incredibly powerful use case for the players of the game. Because now, like, for example, in mainstream gaming currently, you have all sorts of different black markets going on where they're showing the demand for owning these assets because they'll build up in a game and then sell their account somehow. And so the demand is definitely shown. And this is, to me, this is the most powerful use case for Web3 gaming. But you've got all sorts of options for how you can integrate NFTs and Web3 economy into your game, and it just makes it it can make it so much more powerful. For example, you may have a dynamic NFT that changes over time as you play the game, as new data is associated with it. Or you might be a racer participating in a racing tournament and you've got a race record associated with your NFT, and people can see what that record is and how well this particular vehicle is done. There's participating in the community. There's special groups. There's, for example, we have special Discord threads. We have had in the past Discord threads for specific NFT holders to communicate around what's going on with those NFTs. There's a variety of different approaches you can take, but overall, I would definitely say that the player-owned assets is an incredibly powerful use case. And I think it is so powerful that it will drive the masses to Web3 when you get enough gaming projects that are leading with the kind of quality that mainstream gamers expect. And I think that's the most important element right there, is that mainstream gamers expect a certain degree of quality, depending upon the game type, but whether it's the graphics and the look and feel of the game mechanics, the lore, all of these things that create a fun and entertaining experience. And the more we can do that in Web3 gaming, the more that powerful use case for the end gamer of player-owned assets becomes a type of tidal wave that brings all sorts of new utility to our industry, to crypto. And I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that just the idea of ownership generally for NFTs plays itself out so naturally within the gaming space, because, for decades you had users gamers who really felt a sense of ownership over their assets, but until something went wrong, didn't really understand that they didn't own anything, right? And I think that is a key distinction when we start talking about blockchain. And, I think, Sharky, it's interesting because, as a lending platform, we look at, you guys, I'm sure, are calculating the value of NFTs. And right now, you have some PFPs and you have some art, but I think, when we start to think about gaming and long-term value, there's a lot of items that maybe would serve as great collateral, even though someone doesn't want to sell that item. Maybe they want to keep it. Maybe they have something that's associated with their character in a game, but they want to lend against it. I'm wondering, I think that given that ownership is one of these big, benefits in gaming, how do you see lending for NFTs in general evolving around, that idea, right? As things become more stabilized, as the value of items is less speculative, and we're starting to talk about, real utility, even potentially lower value items when we're talking about, game items. How do you see lending really factoring in and continuing to contribute to these, broader NFT ecosystems?
Yeah, it's a good question. I actually want to give a good example of how it's been working thus far and then dive deeper into your question. But a great example is Honeyland. I think Honeyland is a good popular game known on Solana. They've been listed on Sharky for over 1 to 2 years now. Used to be one of the most popular collections, and a collection I personally like lending to because what you mentioned, people like playing the game, they like their items in game, they maybe just want to lend for an extra liquidity and still have ownership of those items. Luckily, how Sharky works, you can lend against your NFT and still keep it safely in your wallet or in game. So I just wanted to give that example because it has been working beautifully, just depending on, I guess, the usability and the likability, if that's a word, of the game. If the users like the game, if the users want liquidity, they'll probably use Sharky. But in the future, I can see this also being a use case for not only gaming and lending, but renting. A lot of people and our users come to us about renting NFTs. I think renting NFTs in regards to gaming is a huge topic to touch base on sooner or later for sure, because that way, just in case the price of NFTs don't stabilize, let's say we can rent our game items out instead. So I see a market for renting. It hasn't worked thus far. I don't think the market has been huge on renting NFTs, but I just wanted to touch base with that. in this discussion. But yeah, I think it'll continue to work how it's working. I'm very interested to see how NFTs will be shaped in the future. That's why us at Sharky aren't just looking at things like gaming, but also like real world assets. So it'll be interested to connect like real world assets with lending as well. And that's something we're researching into, too. But yeah, in regards to gaming, we love that. If people like your game, if the game item is valuable enough, we have seen a lot of use cases where people still borrow against their NFTs and pay back their loans. And to a lender, that's amazing. Sexy, I shall say.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's interesting, right? Because we start to see how, if we start to think about how the digital space has evolved and really how the physical collectible space evolved, you can kind of look back and see, for example, IPs like Pokemon, right? Which have so many different elements to them. But one of them, one of the most important ones, was a game, right? That was a trading card game. But then from that, you had some items that became extremely collectible, right? So one of the points that you made about the real world assets, we could be looking at, for example, a first edition PSA 10 Charizard, right? Maybe there's only a few in the world, and that maybe belongs in a museum or a permanent collection somewhere, museum of Pokemon. But maybe there's liquidity needs around that. And so you have this, $100,000 card, which is, a physical backed asset. And then you're able to kind of lend against that. And I think what we might see is we have, generally speaking, there's, at least in my opinion, right now there are issues, getting mainstream people and younger people into the crypto space, right? There's all this technology that's being developed. And I think that one of the byproducts of the gaming industry is that from a UI perspective, no one likes to jump through hoops less than gamers, right? So I would say that from what I've seen in terms of on-ramping and, throughput and a lot of the innovations we've seen on the blockchain side in terms of this hybridization of digital, just Web2 space and the Web3 space, a lot of these advancements are being made by companies that are focused on gaming, but are going to have this, trickle down effect to just the general crypto space. Once someone has a wallet, once they understand, that idea of ownership, even if it's just back-ended, if you're using Sequence or Third Web or any of these other social wallets, now you have access to the whole ecosystem, right? And so I truly believe that games are going to be the best on-ramping vehicle we have. And especially for younger generations who are going to grow up with this technology kind of just as a matter of, yeah, I know what this is. I played it in this, and this. I have my wallet. Oh, I have, this Pokemon card that my dad gave me. I didn't know I could lend against this. Great. And I can do that using the same tech I used to play, Legions or Cornucopias, and I think that's the future. So I do think it's interesting because I think it really all ties together. But yeah, thank you. I think that's a really smart perspective on that. I want to talk about quickly because I know it's easy to be bullish here, and the question asked about the advantages and disadvantages. So I want to talk about the disadvantages a little bit, and one of the biggest things that a narrative that's existed for a long time is you build the technology good enough, and all these Web 2 studios and AAA studios are just going to add it to their existing games, right? What would it be if World of Warcraft had NFTs, or what would it be if we just added NFTs to Diablo 4? And I think, at least from our perspective with the research we've done, you can't do that, right? Like, we've seen real money type scenarios break games time and time again. And so I think one of the things that is a little bit understated is the degree to which NFTs and a real money kind of player economy has to be incorporated from day one of the design, unless everything in the item is just aesthetic, right? Or everything in the game that you're using NFTs for is just aesthetic, I think then it can work a little bit more out of the box. But there's so many game genres that feel like, oh, the player economy would be great here if we just added NFTs. And, the past has told us that's not the case. And so when you're looking at a game like Diablo 4, which took 7 years to build, or we're thinking of the next great RPG of the future that's going to incorporate this technology, I think it's going to take some time for this to be included in the design. I think it's a real challenge on how you design a game to incorporate an item that gives you advantages within the game, but that is freely transferable and can be farmed, and all these other challenges that we see in other games that have black market economies, or we saw what happened with Diablo 3 with the real money auction house. I think that there's just a lot of things that need to be done from a design perspective to incorporate NFTs. And so I think from a disadvantage, I wouldn't really call it a disadvantage, but more of a challenge here. It's up to us as, early movers in this space to do the experimentation that gets us to systems that work, right? And then once we get there, I think we're going to see a lot of copying, a lot of, reformulating game ideas. I think we're going to see a lot of indies from the Web2 space embrace this a lot faster than the AAAs do. And then I think we're going to see kind of the low-hanging fruit implementation, which is skins. And I think skins are going to be great. And I think we're going to see markets evolve around that. But even then, you look at games, like CSGO, where it's skins based, but there's a really nice business model that they've got going there in a centralized marketplace. So even then, you've got jurisdictional challenges, you've got legal challenges. There's a lot that you have to do there to get it in. So I love the potential of this technology, but I don't think it's as simple as, all right, we just have to make it work and then everybody's going to adopt it. I think it's a bit of an uphill battle. And it starts with gamers actually wanting it, right? Changing the narrative so that we're not sitting on a, hill screaming, hey, this is good for you. You should want this. And really, like going back to what Josh said at the beginning, or Rob, this is something that we have to be educating people on the use case, on the utility of it, not on the product itself. Spencer, back to you.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to give, I think Rob didn't get a chance to speak on this one. I wanted to give him an opportunity if he wanted to before we move on to individual questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you're saying is definitely really important. I think the more people understand the ownership side, I think, of NFTs and the blockchain side, but also the social aspect side of it as well, especially when we're talking about gaming. I think gaming has an amazing opportunity to onboard people. There's over 3.5 billion people in the world that are gamers. So I think gaming has a unique opportunity to onboard and then educate within the space. So I think it's very important.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, everyone. Awesome discussion on that first one. So moving on to individual questions. The first one will be to Cornucopia, so I'll let either of you guys jump in for this one and answer it, or both of you, however you guys want to do it. But the question is, why do you think land-based NFT systems are effective for Metaverse projects, and how can Metaverses incentivize users to build experiences on their land?
Yeah, I think again, if we go back to the social aspect, I think land, especially with our game, works on two different levels. For the landowners, they obviously own the land and they have that unique plot of land that, unlike traditional Web2 games where you go into a game and you build on a plot of land, there might be 1,000 other people that actually are building on that same land plot in different server sessions. And it's not unique at all. Whereas in our game, because everything is very progressive and you actually own that individual land plot. So from that point of view, you have ownership, and your actions actually affect the gameplay for other players. From the community point, you're actually also being part of a district. So you have ownership of your land, but you also have community within this district, and we'll have district versus district competitions. You'll have free players that are coming in, and they're helping to actually build some XP up for themselves on your land. And if you work your land up and have maybe hotels, or if you have crafting stations in there, then you'll get benefits as well, because they then have incentive to come to your land, which in turn will have benefits for you, and then hidden from those players, you'll have different rewards that are coming as a landowner. But also you then get to, like I say, be part of the community, where at the end of the season, if you do win some of these district competitions, you'll be able to vote together on, like, what should we actually not just benefit for myself, for my own land plot, what benefits could we get for our district? So let's say we're forever going down these big canyons and ravines. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a little bridge that actually benefited everyone, and then maybe drew other people over to our land space, and then the whole community? So you have completely different way of thinking about community and landship that I think is well, I mean, it's definitely unique for our game, but unique for gaming and NFT in general.
Yeah, the only thing I would really add, and Rob expressed that very well, there's just so much gameplay potential, but to remind, so much of what we do in life, and even in gaming as well, and gaming is very much a reflection of life. But so many people want to express themselves in a variety of ways. We spend money on different outfits to show our style, or who we are, or express who we are. We do the same thing with, our properties, our homes, and how we present ourselves to the world. And this is a huge, huge way that you can do that within Cornucopias, because as a NFT landholder, which, by the way, those are trading, we sold out completely on JPEG Store. So you can go buy those on JPEG Store or Token Riot websites. You can buy land right now, but it is completely yours. This is the only, and so much different than many of the other games out there that are doing this. There's a lot of mainstream games that will allow, up to 10,000 people or unlimited number of people to own the same house, so they can just keep generating revenue from that. We're doing that different. So if you're the owner of a property, you're the only owner of that property. And I think that's pretty special. And if you look at the quality of our graphics, I actually just was messaging our social media guy to post some of the quality, some videos of our graphics up in this Spaces thread, so people can see. But it's remarkable. And so to be able to build on that land and participate in the in-game economy and all the gamified mechanics that Rob was mentioning is a powerful thing. And it's only going to get more and more so as we bring new users into the game, which creates a whole new element of demand. So it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what we've seen kind of on what you've been touching, what you just touched on, is that when people are buying land, they obviously want some sort of return on that investment, right? Because it's kind of a dual commitment, right? It's buy this land and then spend resources as a developer to actually develop that land. And so I think what from what I've seen, at least, the projects that are able to do a few things. One, provide good tooling, right? Like you were saying, with the graphics and probably everything else that you'll incorporate either through an SDK or a builder or whatever direction that goes for developers to actually, build out on that land. But then, foot traffic, right? Eyeballs. How do you as a metaverse drive people to those lands? And if we look at, for example, what Nifty Island did really well, I think, is just a really good AI system that brings people to other people's properties and encourages people to do things on other people's property. And that's something that I enjoyed there, and I think is going to be part of, discovery for most metaverse platforms. And I think that there is a decision, right? Like when you're talking about land ownership, what is the value of owning a land? Well, you're getting access to a few different things. And I think as long as the prices are, in line with the value you're receiving, I think it becomes a no-brainer. I think the problem is, we started to see early Decentraland days where people were spending $20,000, $30,000 worth of ETH, or God forbid Mana at that time, when lost a bunch of money when Mana went up. You got this land parcel, and it was very limited what you could actually do. Now everything's gotten a lot better since then, but I think that some sort of hybrid, pay for that premium experience, but you still get to participate for free is a really good model going forward, as long as the premium experience really is premium, right? And I think that's where developers really are going to discern, right? Because it's not necessarily going to be crypto speculators that are purchasing these things long term. It's developers who actually want to put together businesses or experiences for people. So I think that, it's definitely a very good start, seeing what you guys are doing, and I'm excited to see how that develops.
I just want to say a note on the graphics. Got to see those in person at Consensus and was extremely, extremely impressed. One of your team members, I think, mentioned that you guys are not using any of the out-of-the-box assets from Unreal, and that your artist is building everything from scratch, which is incredible, and it looks like it. So great job on everything you guys have been building.
Yeah, the team we have is absolutely incredible. We formed 1st of July 21, so we're just coming up to nearly 3 years now, and we've got 53 full-time employees, and yes, we don't take anything off the marketplace. Everything is built in-house, and they're all placed by hand, and the artists, they actually study geography and how rocks form and how water falls and moving around. So everything really is an absolute labor of love. I mean, it costs more to do it that way. But I think the quality at the end of it, I think, yeah, like you say, it shows when you play the game.
Totally. Awesome. Well, moving on to our next individual question to Sharky. So Nepa, what impact do you think NFT-backed lending will have on the Web3 space in general? And maybe if you have any off the top of your head, what opportunities do you see that maybe aren't out there currently, or that people aren't thinking about in regards to NFT-backed lending?
I think deep in the bear market, it showed me how much money could really still go around with a protocol like ours. A lot of people actually made a lot of money in the bear market by lending and borrowing against their NFTs. There's a few strategies that I've learned and listened to. For example, it's just the whole simple idea that people do in Web2 of using other people's money. Let's say you have your own money, but you want to use someone else's money because there's an investment that can go up. So then I would just borrow against my NFT, use that loan or another person's money to invest into something I know will go up within that loan duration. If not, I like to make sure I still have the loan amount too, just in case, because I want to pay it off. You don't want to lose your NFT unless you do. That's another strategy. Some people borrow against their NFTs in a market like this because the floor price may go down, and if it does, you have the option of keeping your loan, essentially making profit or quote unquote selling your NFT at a certain price point. Hopefully that made sense. Both borrowing strategies I'm talking about. On the lending side, people like to make money by lending against collections that they want to own. So if they get their loan paid back, they get more Solana back. If their loan doesn't get paid back, they get the NFT that they want at a lower price. So something as simple as this are like some strategies that I've seen thus far within the past couple of years. Going forward, I'm very interested to see more strategies come up as there's a lot more going on. And like I said, I'm very eager to when we expand outside of just Solana NFTs, because right now Sharky is just lending and borrowing against Sol NFTs. with plans of hopefully expanding to different blockchains and those real world assets, because it'll be interesting to see like the strategies people come up with of borrowing against a watch, for example, or borrowing against some real estate. We see some of that happening on the blockchain already, with a couple of teams. But yeah, hopefully, I think I answered your question by giving you a couple strategies of how to use our protocol.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I haven't done actually, I guess, like true lending with the lending protocol, but like back in the Axie Infinity days, I had a whole bunch of people over in the Philippines who, essentially I was giving my assets to so that they could actually play the game, and we had a very equitable situation where we could both make money off of it. So the model I definitely see, and I'm very excited for, and I got to look into lending some of my NFTs because I have a whole bunch that are just sitting there not doing a whole lot. But yeah, kind of what you were saying though about like more like physical backed loans, or, loans backing like physical objects. Like I'm very excited about that because I'm a big physical collector. So like I invest a lot in like trading cards and comic books and VHS and things like that. And, there's a couple protocols now like, courtyard.io where you can actually, tokenize like physical Pokemon cards and put them on the blockchain. They throw the card in a Brinks vault, but then that card is then freely tradable, on Polygon. And I'd love to be able to, like, for example, be able to do asset-backed loans for some of my physical cards that are on chain. So I'm excited for some of those use cases as well. So moving on, looks like we have time for probably one more question. And maybe Nick, you could start us off with this one. We haven't had you start in a little bit. So how can we combat some of the negative stereotypes and misconceptions about cryptocurrencies and NFTs to bring new people into the space?
Well, talked a little bit about this, I guess, right? One of the biggest negative stereotypes is a byproduct of some of the narratives we've pushed in the past, and some of the issues that we've created, which is the over financialization of a lot of things that didn't need to be over financialized, right? We had art, which has always been something that people invested in, but long term. And when the NFT space started really getting hyped up, people were buying and flipping, moments after they bought it, which was fine. But I think it led to a narrative that, obviously didn't result well and end well. We saw the same thing with PFPs. We saw the same thing with cryptocurrencies in the, NFT boom. We're probably going to see the same thing with meme coins. We're seeing it with celebrity meme coins. I think we have this tendency, in the crypto space. And I think it's a unique sector of the crypto space that really is there to gamble. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with that, in its truest form. I think that when investing and collecting becomes gambling, as it often does in this space, I think people, as long as they have the right mindset, it's their money, they can do whatever they want with it, right? I think the problem there is that the space lacks a certain amount of accountability, for founders and people who may do malicious acts within that context of this fast-paced space where money can be made and fortunes can be made overnight, and everyone knows 3 or 4 friends who hit it big on 1 or 2 projects, and kind of that chase becomes the experience. And I think within the Web3 space, as someone who's been here since 2017, that's kind of just part of life here, right? And I think that it's not necessarily part of my life, right? I think a lot of the builders in the space aren't involved in a lot of that, but I think, a lot of the time our communities are. And so recognizing that that's part of the space, but also recognizing that that isn't the whole of the space, and that, we do have a technology here that, really does provide some benefits to a variety of different types of use cases that weren't possible before, and is really revolutionizing a lot of this digital asset ownership as we're speaking, despite all the potential bad narratives that we as a space are creating and putting forward, and which, for lack of a better word, the normies see, right? The stuff they're seeing is the lawsuits, the big scandals, the celebrities that they knew and follow pump some meme coin or NFT project and then leave 3 weeks later and then never talk about it again. So, creating these narratives, I think is really not great for the space, but it's a part of the space. And so I think that, when we're I think we need to distance ourselves a bit as game developers, as artists who are putting out digital art. If you are really leaning into the more serious uses of this technology, I think we need to be starting to think about, okay, there is always going to be that part of the space that's kind of like the degen culture, having fun, investing, tweeting, memeing, and that's an important part of the culture of this space. But when we talk about mass adoption and long term, that is going to become a very, very small part of the space, and it's still going to be done, and I think people will still be attracted to it. But on a macro level, that's not what the technology is going to be used for in 5 years, in 10 years. And I think in order for us to get there, we have to change the narrative. I think we have to really start, like we said earlier, back-ending the technology, talking about the games we're building and not just the fact that they include NFTs, right? Talking about not even NFTs, but digital assets that people can own, talking about open player economies, free markets for your items, not focusing on the 600% profit that someone made by getting a whitelist spot into a project that they had to jump through 6 different, discords for and hope that they got a raffle and yada, 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 right? I think that's the space, and it's been what the space is for a long time, and it's gotten us where we are. But every cycle, it feels like we learn and we mature a little bit. And, after this craze is done, as we start to enter, more of a bull market, I think what we need to be doing is really putting forth the right message. So I think the biggest thing is changing the narrative. I think the tech is getting better. I think there's a lot of builders doing some serious work on improving the technology. We've seen what's happened in the Bitcoin ecosystem now. I mean, the encouraging part is that, there's been some new use cases developed for digital assets, NFTs, runes. I guess the discouraging part is the amount of, kind of not necessarily sustainable uses that have been put out. But we're seeing Bitcoin layer 2s. We're seeing all sorts of things entering that ecosystem that are changing the way people think about Bitcoin. And, I think that's great for that ecosystem. We've seen Solana kind of come up and be one of the major players. It's an awesome layer 1 that's very scalable. So that's really great to see. We're seeing blockchains like Arbitrum and, Avalanche and then layer 3s like Zai on the gaming side. We're seeing all these different, Telos. We're seeing different blockchains pop up that are specifically focused on solving problems for certain industries. And I think that's great, because I don't think it's going to be a one size fits all approach depending on what you're doing. And so, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we need to start thinking about this as more of a technology that's on the back end of things. And that's the message we need to be giving. And degens are going to degen, and we got to let them degen and embrace that. But I think, on a higher level, we need to be conveying a message about the utility of the technology.
Any thoughts from anyone else in the group?
Are you talking in response to the negative stereotypes and conceptions on cryptocurrencies?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's another reason that with what the path we chose for expressing our vision for Cornucopias involves just paramount quality graphics and experience overall. I mean, everything that we do in terms of community, in terms of graphics, in terms of the game lore, we're trying to go with the highest possible quality to create a new perception of Web3 and professionalism in the space. And that's not to say that every project should do it in that way, because there's different ways of presenting what your vision may be. But in our belief, what we landed on was that to bring Web2 gamers into the space and to really add value for the crypto industry, we have to lead with quality that attracts the masses. And that is what eventually will gradually begin to offset the stereotype of the scams or the negative stuff, is when you get enough projects that are really doing something right and doing it well and leading with quality or creating real value for the end user. And that's what it's all about, right? So when we can start to do that as an industry, or more so at least increasing, then those concerns and stereotypes are going to start to fade away. But look, there's no, I mean, even in the oil industry, that's so incredibly old, it's ripe with scams, right? So anywhere that money is at, there's going to be scams. And so there's not any other industry that doesn't experience this type of stereotype. But we have it pretty heavy in crypto right now because we're in the limelight. And but over time, that could be fought by really demonstrating quality and value.
Awesome. Any other comments before we end the space here? Well, all right then. I think, Nick, time to announce the giveaway winner here. So today we are giving away 5 Satoshi's crystals, which is our in-game resource, which is used for pretty much everything in the game, from upgrading your items, crafting, etc. It's really the most important resource right now in the game to upgrade everything that you're doing in your gameplay. So the winner of 5 Satoshi's crystals today is at Teddy's Bearsies, or just Teddy's. Congratulations, Teddy's. In order to claim your prize, if you haven't already, please create a free account at game.legions2029.com, and then please send a DM to the Satoshiverse account with your username, and we'll make sure to drop those into your account. Awesome. Congratulations to our winner, and I'll pass it back to Nick to close us out.
Amazing. Yes, congratulations, and definitely jump on. I will, I'm going to close out the spaces. What we'll basically do is I'm just going to remind everyone to follow all of our guests. Thank you to all of our guests for joining. It's been such a pleasure to have you on and talk about all these great topics. We do this every week, so if you enjoyed the spaces, please join us next week at the same time. We'll be doing another space with another awesome panel. Please do follow also the Hideout account. That is a new account where we'll have some additional content about the speakers and the topics for the spaces. But, we're just doing this to move the space forward and to help encourage good discourse. So thank you to the speakers for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know that this is a crazy time for many of us. So really appreciate you taking out. And thanks for everyone who joined to listen to the spaces. It's always awesome to have you guys in the audience and get, be able to talk about some of our perspectives with you. Please do feel free to add suggestions in the comments if you have any. But other than that, what I will do is I will pass the mic over to our speakers in case there's anything they want to plug or anything coming up that they want to promote. And then I will wait about 30 seconds and then I'll close the spaces, as there's a slight delay between the speakers and what the listeners are hearing. But on the Legions 2029 side, it's been a pleasure to be here and host all of you. Again, the game is free to play. We have a big battle pass going on right now that's also free for season 1. Tons of NFT prizes, including a free customizable avatar that you can create just by joining the game. Game is free to play. You just download it in the link in the pinned tweet on our Twitter. But yeah, check it out. Give us your feedback. We're always developing and would love to hear from the community. So I will now pass it over to the speakers in case you have any last things that you want to share with everybody, and then I will close the space when I hear crickets.
I just wanted to say thank you for hosting the space. I will be hosting our Shark Bite Spaces here in 2 minutes, so I pinned it up top if anyone wants to stop by there. But yeah, thank you. Great discussions, and I think it was well hosted, so that's all.
Yeah, thanks a ton for having us on the show. This is Josh with Cornucopias, and I would say the one thing I would let everybody know about is that we do have a node sale going on right now. Currently, you can go to the website cornucopias.io to check that out. But yeah, thanks again for having us on the show, and would love to be back anytime. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm Rob from Cornucopias. Our NFTs, like Josh said, we've got a node sale on at the moment. They're on Cardano chain and on the base chain, and our Copy token, COPI, is available on Cardano, Base, Ethereum, and Binance chain. If you haven't seen us, come check us out. The game is you need an NFT to play at the moment. It's been live for 6 months. It's made with the latest Unreal Engine 5.3. It's absolutely amazing. It will be free to play in the future. Come and say hello within Discord. Check us out on Twitter. We've got such an amazing community. Everybody is really friendly. But thanks for having us on. This was fun.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Signing out. See you all next week.